Good morning, champions! Welcome back. Today we are doing our math lesson 4.3, comparing and ordering fractions. Our objective for today is that scholars will be able to compare and order decimals, including our tenths and hundredths. So last week you made tenths and hundredths by sorting out pennies, dimes, nickels, and quarters to make up various decimals, okay? So with our objective, when it says to compare and order, when we're making comparisons, we're using terms such as is greater than or is less than for our comparisons. We've also got this symbol, which means greater than, or this symbol, which means less than. Remember, Pac-Man or the alligator wants to go for the larger of the two. Okay? When we need to order our decimals, what we're doing is we're saying order the decimals from least to greatest or greatest to least. Sorry about the shadows. I'm in a new filming rig and still trying to figure out the best way for that, okay? So I'm going to work you through several problems to give you an idea of what to do. And then on Math in Focus Online, I sent out the link yesterday, I believe. You should be able to go on to 4.3 and do the activity page that is required for this, okay? So to start us off, I'm going to put down two decimals. The first decimal is 2 tenths or 20 hundredths. And the second decimal I'm going to put up is 12 hundredths. Okay, so we need to compare 0.2 to 0.12. While I'm comparing these, I'm looking at my closest place value to my decimal point. That's the higher of the two. Remember, this is our tenths column, and this is where our dimes would go. Tenths column, hundredths column, where our pennies would go. So on my left with 0.2 or 2 tenths, that is a higher tenths place than my 1/10 over in 0.12. So if I were to compare these, I would say that 0.2 is greater than 0.12. I can also show that it is greater than by pointing the mouth of this symbol to 0.2. 2 tenths is greater than 12 hundredths. Okay? So I've got quite a few numbers that we're going to practice with. I'm going to make another comparison now. And this comparison I'm making between the numbers 0.58 and 0.9. I'd read this number as 58 hundredths, and I'd read this number as 9 tenths. So just like I did in my last one, I look to my tenths place, that one right next to the decimal point, and I compare these two numbers. Which one is greater, 5 tenths or 9 tenths? 9 tenths is greater. However, because I cannot rearrange how these numbers are, the way I need to phrase this is 0.58 or 58 hundredths is less than 9 tenths. 58 hundredths is less than 9 tenths. I can also show that by putting this symbol here, which says the same thing. 58 hundredths is less than 9 tenths. Okay? So stay with me as we work together. For our next number, we need to organize 3 decimal places. So my 3 decimals that I have here, let's see if I can move them just a little bit closer so we can see them all on frame. I have 26 hundredths, 62 hundredths, and 6 tenths. So I need to organize these from greatest to least. So my greatest number out of these 3 numbers I'm going to put to my left side, and my least of my numbers I'm going to put to my right. Okay? In comparing my tenths place, I know that 26 hundredths is less than both 62 hundredths and 6 tenths. So this is my least out of my 3 possible numbers. So this number I'm going to put over here with my least. But now I'm left with these 2 numbers, 6 tenths and 62 hundredths. To compare these, because they have the same number in the tenth spot, I need to look at the hundredth spot. This number here, 6 tenths, doesn't have a number in the hundredth spot. However, I know that 6 tenths is equal to 60 hundredths. So I can put in a placeholder 0 behind my 6 tenths. Okay? So now if I compare 60 hundredths and 62 hundredths, 62 would be greater than 60. So I can swap those around. Now my order is correct. Reading from 62 hundredths, 60 hundredths, 26 hundredths. Okay? And if hundredths is difficult for you to say, when we're dealing with decimals, you can say cents instead, because it takes 100 hundredths to equal 1 whole. Okay? So that's ordering from greatest to least. For my next model, I want to model and organize my next 3 numbers from least to greatest. Okay? So my smaller number over here, my greater number over here. For this number, for this sequence, I have the following numbers. I can pull them apart. I have 1 and 52 hundredths, 1 and 45 hundredths, 1 and 54 hundredths. So I start with my highest place value, which happens to be my ones category. I have a 1, a 1, and a 1. So all of those cannot be, I can't determine greater or least than based off of that 1's place value. So if I move on to my tenths place, I have 5 tenths, 5 tenths, 4 tenths. Automatically, I know that 4 tenths is less than 5 tenths. So I'm going to swap this around, put my 1 and 45 hundredths, I should say, into my least and swap that there. Now I want to double check my work going into my hundredths place with 2 hundredths and 4 hundredths. 4 is greater than 2, or 2 is less than 4. So now I've ordered 1 and 45 hundredths, 1 and 52 hundredths, 1 and 54 hundredths from least to greatest. Okay? So now we're going to do some practice with these concepts I've gone over so far. For this one, I need to make a comparison. I'm comparing 8 and 21 hundredths to 8 and 23 hundredths. Which of these two is greater? 8 and 21 hundredths or 8 and 23 hundredths? Take a moment, write that down on a piece of paper that you have by you. Okay? Again, you're comparing using our less than or greater than symbol. 8.21 and 8.23. Okay. Going to give you another number set to compare, which is greater than and which was less than. So the two numbers for your next problem, problem 2, you have 4 and 24 hundredths compared to 4 and 42 hundredths. Using your symbol, is 4 and 24 hundredths less than 4 and 42 hundredths? Or is 4 and 24 hundredths greater than 4 and 42 hundredths? Write that down on your piece of paper as I set up our next number. For your next number, I'm going to give you 4 numbers, and I want you to arrange them from least to greatest. 4 numbers you have now: 0.6 or 6/10, 0.61, 61 hundredths, 0.54, 54 hundredths, and 0.58, 58 hundredths. On your piece of paper that you have in front of you, organize these 4 numbers from least to greatest. All right, now I'm going to set up another number set that I want you to organize from least to greatest. First number is 81 hundredths, 8 hundredths, and 18 hundredths. Organize from least to greatest: 0.81, 0.08, and 0.18. Organize these 3 numbers from least to greatest. Okay? And with those 4 problems that I've given you, write those down on a piece of paper, anything that you have available. And in the comments below or through Class Dojo, please submit your answers to those 4 problems. I'll be following up later today with a science video and continuing reading of the story Powerless. Thank you for stopping by. Hope you stay awesome, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.